On this episode of Vintage New York, I visit Flamingos Vintage Pound in Chelsea, the neighborhood that's quickly becoming the vintage district in Manhattan. Then I take a walk over to Bryant Park, where the Christmas village is in full swing. I'll give you a brief history of the park and all its inception since the late 1600s. And of course, I'll show you what I bought at Flamingos Vintage and how I styled it. I'm Sydney Stone. I'm the editor of Vintage Fashion Magazine, and this is Vintage New York. Flamingos Vintage Pound is located at 110 West 26th Street between 6th and 7th Avenues. Walking into this store is like stepping into a 1980s John Hughes movie. The decor, the music, the staff, it's all very retro, as are the clothes. Everything here is sold by the pound, and I came home with my hulking bag absolutely packed full of vintage. I'll show you one of the things I got and how I styled it at the end of this video. Bryant Park is a 10-acre urban oasis situated behind the New York Public Library at 42nd Street between 5th and 6th Avenues. It's named after this guy, William Cullen Bryant. He was a poet, journalist, and longtime editor of the New York Evening Post. The park's origins date back to 1686, when it was designated as public property. After that, it was a potter's field in 1822 and a reservoir in 1842. 9 years later, it was the Crystal Palace and Observatory. During the Civil War years, it became an encampment for Union Army troops, and an eventual redesign in 1934 has given us the basic structure of what the park is today. And on this particular day, it's the annual Winter Village and Holiday Market, and it's crowded and very, very cold. So I ducked out and into one of my favorite spots in the city, Culture Espresso on 38th Street between 5th and 6th. There's a reason why this place is always crowded. It's because they have the best chocolate chip cookies in town. I purchased several pieces at Flamingos, but this 1960s plaid mini dress was my favorite. I styled it with these vintage 1980s Sassoon jeans, a pair of Manolo Blahnik heeled Oxfords, and a jeweled discord necklace. I added a black crescent bag from Amazon and a vintage 1960s faux fur coat. And that's it for this episode of Vintage New York. Join me next time as I visit Garage Sale House of Vintage, and I'll even brave it through Times Square to give you the backstory of the Times building in the New Year's Eve ball drop. Be sure to hit the subscribe button below to be notified when the next episode drops, and visit vintagefashionmagazine.com for more vintage content.